going, guys?
Good, how are you?
Hey, good.
So, Stephen, what can you tell us about the development of between Oliver and Felicity this season? What's coming up?
That 5 months have passed, and Oliver has learned a bunch of new skills, but typically when we come back from a hiatus, it's like a new suit, or a new bow, or he decided that he wanted to take up jujitsu. But this time around, almost all the skills pertain to domestic life, which is funny.
So he and Felicity have been just playing house since they wrote off themselves?
They've traveled, and I believe that they've settled. And it's interesting. It's interesting to learn who has enjoyed this process more, be it Oliver or Felicity.
Is being still married to Missa going to play a bigger arc in the season, or is that just going to fall by the
No,
wayside?
I don't think. I don't think that that weddings at knife point in Ananda Parbat,
Count.
lorded over by a sorceress, really count in the grand scheme of things. Felicity did have that funny throwaway line about annulling the marriage, but no, that doesn't really play. That's a good question, though.
Can you give us any clues or information details about what Oliver's going to be facing when the new season begins and in the first few episodes in terms of challenges?
So what we are dealing with this year, and I wouldn't say that it's as concrete a theme as we had last year, when it was like, what's the theme? Identity. An element that we are introducing this year is magic, mysticism, and Oliver alludes very early on in the season that this is something that he's seen before. So clearly that will play into this year's flashbacks for him. But it's an interesting wrinkle.
Is that something that's going to directly affect any of the characters, including Oliver?
I expect it would affect all of the characters.
Is Oliver going to feeling some regret for having placed Malcolm Merlin in the head of the League of Assassins at this point?
I've read 3 episodes of the season, and we haven't seen an interaction that would allow that to play out yet. I don't think that this was a bargain that Oliver enjoyed making with Malcolm, just like taking Diggle's wife and endangering their child wasn't something that he enjoyed doing. But he did it because, in his mind, the end justified the means.
What can you tell us about what ultimately brings Oliver back to Starling City?
Impending doom, as it always does. I mean, look, I was saying this at the other table. Our show is our show. I'm not going to spend 5 episodes in domestic bliss in nowhere town. The show is the show. We come back, 5 months have happened, and conveniently, right when we kick back up again, I get activated, so to speak.
In Flash, there's that teaser scene in the crossover where you meet your baby mama in the coffee shop. Do you want to see that play out a little more?
I do.
Yeah.
I do. I mean, me personally being a dad, I would love to see how Oliver interacts with having a kid. Now, obviously, it would be a different experience than what I've experienced, but I think that storyline deserves further attention. One of the big tenets of Greg Berlanti is you don't introduce something to the audience and you don't tease it if you're not going to follow through with it in some way, shape, or form. So I think it's a safe bet that Oliver will find out about his child at some point.
What's kind of going through his head as far as his relationship with Missa? I know they aren't married anymore probably, but how does he feel towards her? Because they had such animosity in the last part.
I think that there is an uncommon truce between them, based on the fact that I killed her father, and, she was basically the only reason she was upset was because she wanted to be the one to do it. That being said, I installed her mortal enemy as the head of the league, so I'm sure when I see her, it's not going to be high fives and hugs.
Where's Oliver's headspace in terms of, I guess, doing what needs to be done versus doing the right thing versus, morality, and you've seen that shift back and forth.
It's interesting this year when Oliver, when Oliver re-enters Starling City. It's a different guy. which is exciting for me because this will be our 70th episode when we begin on Monday. So it's exciting that he's going to consider things differently, and I don't know. We think we see a different Oliver, but when the rubber hits the road, when push comes to shove, when people that he cares about are in danger, that sort of primal instinct that he's always had, I would suspect that it would rear its relatively handsome head.
Last question, please.
How has been, obviously, the idea of superheroes is often to be an inspiration. How has it been trying to play that while still having a character who's been so morally great for such a stretch of time?
Yeah, I mean, the Arrow is not an inspiration, but the Arrow is dead. So if there is a new version of that hero, hopefully one of the things that he strives to do is inspire people, because that is the basic tenet of a superhero, that they have to make people believe in something bigger than themselves. Thank you, guys.
Okay, thank you.